Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Michael Fillios, founder and CEO of IT Ally and a CDO editorial board member. And we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Brad Burke, Chief Engineering and Data Officer at American Family Insurance. Brad, welcome to the show.
Great. That's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about your current role and the culture at American Family Insurance. And tell us a little bit more about the audience there. How do you go about promoting? I mean, it's an almost 100-year-old company, right? You're talking about, right? So you've got a cultural component in this organization, and it's insurance, right? So you've got some of that laggards, if you will, stigma on it. So how do you have this conversation internally, and maybe some examples of the ways that you use data analytics as a part of your core business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the interesting things is American Family is actually, it's really a roll-up of 5 different companies, very different companies. Now, the primary company that we all think about is our agency business, American Family, but we white label our home insurance and auto insurance to a lot of different companies. So there's a really interactive partner system that we put together there that really starts looking more like a digital company. We are the general, so we serve a group of underserved people with our auto products, and that's an almost 80% digital online product. So there's a lot of dynamicness to our channels. That's probably not a word, but let me put it this way. Our channels are very dynamic in whether they serve through an agency, an independent agency, or digital or direct to partner with embedded insurance. So that actually is a very interesting data challenge in a lot of ways, because then you have sort of the heterogeneous. I mean, insurance is interesting in the sense that when we always talk about the various V's for velocity, volume, or variety, insurance doesn't necessarily have velocity, but it's got variety for days. Like just the nature of insurance, there's a lot of interesting challenges in how different all the information is. We all have tons of legacy insurance and systems because they're kind of wrapped up with, it's hard to turn off an old insurance system given our regulatory environment. So we have a lot of that. We have a lot of challenges. So it's actually kind of an interesting dynamic environment, regardless of what people may think about what insurance looks like from the outside.
Sure. I was thinking of the word omnichannel. I know this is also overused a lot in the industry, but it sounds like that's what you're describing. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could probably use that phrase. I think it's omnichannel, but it's also about giving the right experience to the right customer, depending on which channel they're coming through. So absolutely.
That's right. And that's kind of where my next question was, again, off script here a little bit. I'm just curious about this. Is there a head of digital inside of AmFam?
I would say that each one of the operating companies, as we call them, sort of has their head of digital. And then sort of, part of my team's charge is to create sort of a really good integration architecture that allows them to do what they want to do digitally. This isn't an American Family phrase. This is more just a Bradism, but it's, I've kind of felt that the sort of edge, the digital edge of systems is really not built to last anymore, because people want to change the experience. They want to integrate the experience. They want to do a lot of different things for it. So, whatever is React today is something else tomorrow. And so having a really good service layer that people can plug their digital edge into is probably the killer app. And it's not probably, it is the killer app for whether you're an insurance company or any of these digitally driven companies.
I gotcha. So you operate somewhat in a decentralized environment, but also at the same time, each of these omni channels, have their own personas they've got to cater to. Therefore, you need that inherent flexibility. But somehow
100%.
You're trying to create an architecture that's flexible and can respond and be adapted, given those use cases.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always looking for the right leverage point. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're looking for the leverage point in experience. So you're going to build something at the edge. Mm-hmm. And then you're looking for maybe leverage in data or scale or something. So you're going to move that to the center. And, so that's kind of the fun thing about having this setup is you can kind of make a decision about where something should live. If that makes sense.
It does. And I guess maybe that leads us to, how do you think about your team, right? Because of that multifaceted, decentralized yet centralized, maybe federated, whatever term you want to put on it, balance. How do you tell us a little bit more about your team? Obviously, we know that you're a team builder and looking at how do you drive, that culture inside the company. But maybe you can talk a little bit more about that for us as well.
Yeah, I think first I tend to think of myself as a business person whose role is in IT rather than I'm an IT person, because I've built businesses, and I try to instill that into our teams as well. We aren't IT. We are part of the business. We are trying to make our business more successful. We are absolutely trying to make our customers successful in whatever their pursuits are. Mm-hmm. So that's a different, sort of that growth, entrepreneurial, but not in a silly way, but like in a sort of like, we really want to take care of our customers way. So results matter. That's a big mantra on our team. And then I do think like really understanding whether something's local or whether because we use that sort of dirty term shared services. And I think that was a 90s term. Mm-hmm. I think the technologies now allow us to really meet the promise of a shared service. Sometimes you put solution teams directly in the opcos. So some of my operating companies, that's our term for it, but some of my teams are solution teams that are directly inside the businesses doing stuff directly for them, whether that's on data or whether that's on applications. Some of my platform teams are in the center. They're usually a quarter or 6 months or a year ahead of the other teams. And it's that kind of structure that it's not a monolithic organization that doesn't respond to the edge. I put teams at the edge when they need to be there and to get the work done. And so I just think our technologies, whether it's the things we use to support Agile or it's the hyperscale clouds or whatever it is, they lend themselves to that better than maybe when everyone had their own code repo or their own warehouse or whatever it was and nothing interoperated with each other.
Sounds like a governance nightmare. But maybe you can talk a little bit about how you manage this.
We'll dial this back to data a little bit because it's a governance. Yes, I think you're probably right there. I think for data governance, at least when I came here, was really kind of about people protecting data. And I think that's still a big part of it, is making sure that people aren't using data. The people are using data appropriately and should have access to it. And obviously consumer privacy has become such a big deal. And so is the responsible use of data and AI and things like that. And I really think the IT side of the equation is working on data and the business side need to work together on that. And the business side really needs to embrace being not only data consumers, but data producers. And so they truly are governing the data. They truly understand the elements of data.
Really appreciate, Brad, you taking some time for joining us today. And for the audience to learn more about CDO Magazine or to view more interviews, please visit cdomagazine.tech. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you for having me.